Are we live now?
That's what he said.
Oh, I thought he was giving me a countdown. I thought he said 5, and I was waiting for the 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday night, and then we're live streaming tonight. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and joining us tonight. I'm sure there's going to be several more jump on as we get started here. Andrew Patterson has joined us again tonight, and you know, and really we have no idea what he's going to say. He has no idea what I'm going to say, and so this is going to be exciting and interesting. And we have Liana is here, and I'm so glad Liana is here tonight because Liana is going to give instructions to everybody that is watching uh, uh, on how we're going to move forward and help start up our small groups that Tina and I are going to be leading here at the church throughout the week. And you've got some directions. You got all the what the kids call it, the deets.
The deets.
I say details, but then you called it the deets.
Me?
You said deets. I know you said deets.
Don't.
No, don't act like you
It
didn't.
was somebody else.
You said deets. So she's got the deets with the details. Enlighten us, Liana. We need
So-
to know.
So we know this direction that Pastor Jason and Sister Tina are moving into, right? And we're going to still continue the Sunday live stream services and Wednesday night live here for you all. But what's most important is that Pastor, he's laughing at me because I said important.
You know what? I'm starting to pick up on it. I've caught myself saying it the other day. I actually enunciated important like that, and I was like, Liana, I'm spending too much time with Liana. Important.
That is a bad thing. So registration is going to officially open on August 30th. That is not this coming Sunday, but the next Sunday. However, Lewis is putting together a video for you, for us all, that'll go live on Sunday with some information on how to get registered on CCB. And also, for those that may need help tithing, that information will be there as well. So these sessions, not counseling sessions, but more discipleship sessions, Pastor and Sister Tina want to pour into you and your family in small groups.
Yeah.
Small groups mean no more than 10 people, and that will include any children or teenagers that are in your household or even connected to you. They don't have to be your children or your teenagers, just people that you're comfortable with. We will be making sure that we're taking temperatures before you come in and meet with Pastor and Sister Tina. And social distancing will be not enforced, but we'll respect social distancing guidelines through that. Now, to register, there will be a register form on CCB. You can get to that directly by going to rcclife.com, and there will be a tab there that will take you directly to the link. It's not there just yet. If you are anxious and you want to get on Pastor's schedule, you can send an email to the office at rcclife.com. And if he does have any available time before we go live, the office will contact you and give you a date and time. All the sessions will be held here at church, and they will last. Our goal is 2 hours, but they'll last as long as the Lord moves. And the big thing is make sure that everyone in your group, you're going to have to make sure that everyone in your group can answer no to those self-screening questions. They're at the door when you come in, but they'll also be in your confirmation email from the office.
Perfect.
Good?
You did good.
Thank you.
It's like you knew
Great.
exactly what you were talking about.
Great.
I'm so glad because you can keep us straight.
Try to.
You're awesome, baby cakes. Thank you so much. That was important.
Important.
That's what I say. I say important, but she says important. She likes to enunciate, where maybe you and I don't enunciate as
Barely
well.
said P. Important.
Important. Yeah. So how you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I cannot complain.
Me neither.
I mean, I could, but nobody would listen. That's not true. God would listen. But no, I'm actually doing, man, I tell you, just really, really good. I'm very excited about, the direction that God is kind of shifting us in here. Because the whole COVID thing, man, it's like Sundays are just tough. And so, we started to have a couple Sunday morning services, letting so many people come in, but, I don't know, it was just something that I still was feeling a little apprehensive about. And so I've been spending time with you since the beginning of the year, just kind of one-on-one. And would you say that there's been some developments and spiritual growth in your life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it's been more of we could. It was just a conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was spirit led, which
Absolutely.
I think was the huge thing. There was no agenda. There was no.
The only agenda was eating breakfast that morning at JoJo's.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Not Pastor JoJo is another restaurant called JoJo. I'm sure Pastor JoJo probably makes good breakfast though, but
yeah.
the
JoJo's,
scrapple
that's-
was the thing that motivated me the most.
That's like.
I'm kidding. It was
It's
you.
like no, I understand. It's like you gotta get that diner food where it's dripping.
It's
right?
diner food where it's running down your
Just running down,
forearms.
right? And then you come home and it smells like grease in the beard.
I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely though. I mean, that's some of my really the one-on-ones is where I feel like that's where I find God the most.
And you've been in church. It's not like you haven't
Yeah.
been in church. You've been in church a long time. You've been in, you've been in our church. You've been in other churches. What I mean, you've done the Sunday morning thing for years.
Yeah.
But the times that you and I were spending at a table in a diner, just kind of kicking it, just talking about whatever the Lord was leading us in. It's changed your life. I think I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've watched you transform in front of me, and it's been awesome. It's been a great journey.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the direction I'm heading in with the rest of the church, man. I'm just gonna break them into small groups and meet with them here. Me and Tina just kind of pour into them, man. Just your whoever they bring families, we're just gonna do it. It's ambitious, but I mean, Sundays are tough, man. You can't do the Sunday thing,
Yeah.
so
And you know what? It answers the question of intimacy, right? A lot of people
Well-
say, how do I get intimate with God?
yeah,
And here we are, because sometimes faith wavers because you physically can't see, right?
it's a good
But
point.
then-
Good point.
We have people, and that's why it's so important with who we surround ourselves with, right? Because now I physically can see you. I physically can feel change
Yeah,
in my spirit.
it's good.
And then all of a sudden I find myself in the morning it was more of reading business books because I didn't want to miss out on how to do business.
Well, and that's kind of your background. You went to college, and you had the whole accountant thing, and so you're very entrepreneur thinking,
Yeah.
very business minded, and so that was kind of your world,
Yeah.
right? And so, what's happened now?
Well, I mean, now you got to figure like the main phrase, the main thing I always hear from you is seek the kingdom and everything else will follow. Right? And
That's it, baby.
So when I put the kingdom second, business was harder.
Mm.
But when I put the kingdom first, I realized everything I read in the business books was in the Bible. And so it's like a catch-22. You're
That's
able
good.
to feel intimacy,
Mm.
but then it translates into every aspect of your life, but you also have to take action on it. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. I love it.
So I mean,
That's good.
that's one of the verses. I gotta look it up because
Well, look it up. We got. Oh gosh, I'm dropping things.
don't break it.
I wish I could. We had I could see who was logging in, and we can interact with them. We're still kind of evolving things here with the live stream, and since we've kind of moved venues, and so our media team is amazing, and they're doing a great job considering some of the limitations that that they were hurdles that they were having to get over. So they're doing a really good job. But man, sooner or later we'll get we'll have it set up where I can interact with people on the live stream on these Wednesday nights. Would be super duper nice.
So one of my new favorite verses that I kind of heard about was 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13. It says, "So prepare your minds for action and exercise self-control. Put all your hope in the gracious salvation that will come to you when Jesus Christ is revealed to the world." And like my favorite thing is, like one of my favorite things in that was prepare your minds for action, right? God called us to join His army. He didn't say, "I want you to be a couch Christian."
Come on, man, that's
Right.
good.
And so when He tells us to prepare our minds for action and exercise self-control, I think action is a form of self-control.
Okay.
Because typically when you get anxious, and I was talking to high school students, because we're doing the same thing, intimacy.
Right. Awesome.
And when you think about it, the only time you get anxious is when you're not taking action. Right? Because you're sitting there thinking about what's going to happen.
It's so true, man. That's really good.
So that's why it says prepare your mind for action so you can exercise self-control. That way you can be in control of your mind and yourself because you're putting it all into Jesus, right? He wants you to reveal him to the world.
Yeah.
You can't do that by just thinking about it, you know? And so First
good.
Peter, that's been, I mean, it was recent, but it's one of those verses that I keep going back to now because we need to be an action-oriented people, especially with the hate that's been going on in
Yeah.
America.
A lot of stuff happening. A lot of division.
Exactly.
People are divided over race, over well, politics has always been a point of contention for a lot of people. Over masks,
Yeah.
you know, we're divided over masks, and so yeah, there is a lot of that. I love something that you said there, Andrew, and that was that you can't just be a couch Christian, you know. But the culture that you and I came up in the church, in the American church culture, it's, you know, the only responsibility really placed on us in that culture is to be at church on Sunday morning for a couple hours, and then after that.
Yeah.
And you're saying that the Lord's kind of been stirring your heart that it's beyond that. It's you're in a kingdom,
Yeah.
and the kingdom needs to advance. The kingdom needs to expand. And us just chilling out on a pew for 2 hours a week is not going to necessarily advance the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so there's this call to action.
I mean, look at it this way. Like, me and you have talked about this. I grew a stronger relationship with Jesus during when churches got shut down.
I could see why. That's
mean,
good.
I found Jesus more when I slipped on Greece when we were going to JoJo's, right?
So good, man.
Right? I mean, that
He's in the greasy diners, what you're
in
saying.
the greasy diners. He's running down your chin.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
But I mean, but you're right. I mean, that's where we have to create action, you know, and stop. Honestly, be bold enough to say, stop blaming the pastors if you didn't get a word that didn't tickle your fancy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think every word should impact somebody because if it doesn't impact you personally, then you need to be equipped because what if God sends somebody around you that you need to help, right? I don't
Hold on a
remember.
second. Let's unpack that because you said
Yeah.
something really good I want to touch on. You said you need to be equipped. So when did you feel like you started becoming equipped? Doing the religious thing growing up or more recently?
Definitely our thing. And
There's an
and-
equipping happening, isn't it?
Yeah, and being real in the mornings and realizing you're not all you're cracked up to be. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
me personally, I'm not all I'm cracked up to be. I almost feel like I get closer with God every week. You know,
I love it.
It used to be like I used to be afraid to say, you know, hey, I broke down because, you know, God wrecked me because of my sins, because people would be like, oh, you're not a true Christian, right? But like now it's like, I don't know, it's like it's a whole new level every week. It feels like you never arrive, you know.
I know that feeling well. And it's not like God's dangling a proverbial carrot in front of us. It's the you know, in the kingdom, okay, you know, in the natural world, when you're hungry, you eat something, you're satisfied,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I filled my belly, I'm satisfied. You know what I'm finding? In the kingdom, it's the opposite. It's like the more I eat, the more I want to eat. The more I drink, the more I want to drink. It's like the more I know, the more I want to know.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wonder if that's the deep calls unto deep. You know, it's like no matter how deep you go, you just want to go deeper.
Yeah.
It's like it's the when you get to know him and you discovered something about him maybe you didn't know, it provokes you to go, I wonder what else I don't know. And you just keep going after him and you keep pursuing him because there's another part of him that maybe you didn't know about. And I wonder how many of us, you know, get to a place in our Christian walk where we just kind of, we end up becoming satisfied, or we just settle. We just settle for, well, you know, this is it. I guess there's nothing else, and you just kind of settle right where you're at. When, you know, there is immeasurable amounts of God that you can learn and know and have impact your life that, but you just settled right here.
So what did you have to do in order to feel that way of the more you dive in, the hungrier you get? What did you have to do to get to that place?
Well, I think it started with me. It was just like, I had this encounter with God. It was just it wasn't like a normal churchy thing but it was like what I would call an encounter. And then from there, it was just like, it was this amazing experience, and I didn't have a point of reference for that. And so I needed to find out the point of reference for what I'm experiencing, because it's like, I'm feeling this, but what is this? Is it just emotions? Is it, what's happening there? And then that just kind of provoked me to, and I'll tell you what it felt like. It felt like, it might sound, too mushy, but it was almost like a love affair. It was just like, I just had the love that I didn't know I was capable of expressing or having towards God. God loves you, and you'd say that you love God, but it's like, okay, you're married, I'm married, and you love your wife, but I've been, how long have you been married now?
Almost 5 strong years.
5 years. Okay, I'm going on 28. 28? I know 27, but we're going on 28 in a few months, right? I think it is. Babe. I think you're wrong. I'm going to have to call you out on it. Are we going on 27 then? Figure it out. I'm arguing with her. She definitely knows.
Just do this year minus your year.
I'm pretty sure we're on 27 now, going into our... Okay, what's 27? Why are you saying 28? Here's the deal, though. Okay, so we've been married going on 27 years.
Yeah.
But there's still things about her that I'm learning that just, and when I say I love her, it's like, it sounds mushy and it sounds like one of those, chick flick romantic comedies that, she likes to watch. I don't really watch them, but unless I'm feeling like I need to for some reason to accommodate her.
Yeah,
but it's like, why can't that be the same with the Lord? It's like, it's the more you get to know him, the more. So what I did, man, I just jumped in. At some point, you just have to determine, I'm just going to jump in. Look, you have a background, not just in finances and stuff like that, but you also have a background in fitness, right? And you're currently working with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you're doing that, and so you're working with student athletes on a regular basis, and so these are people that need to, physically perform at a certain level, which requires them to be in the gym, which requires certain dietary needs. And so you being one that has a fitness background as well, what do you tell people that, well, I want to lose weight and get stronger. What do I need to do?
Take the first step.
Right.
Even if it's easy.
and it's, get in the gym and put down quit going to the greasy diner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, cut that down to once a month.
But you tell them you have to, at some point you just have to determine, I'm going to jump in and do it, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just, that's this journey with God. You just have to make up in your mind that, are you satisfied with where you are spiritually? Are you satisfied with the amount of whether it's revelation or insight or knowledge you have, or, is there something that's on the inside of you saying, no, there's more? And I think for me, it was like, I just knew on the inside of me, there was something more, and it's, the Bible says that God put eternity in the hearts of men. And so eternity is a big thing, that has no ending. And so it's like, you got eternity in your heart, and you just know that there's just something greater, something bigger, there's something more. Yeah. And so you just jump in, man, you run with it. And then it's true. You said something earlier. It's who you surround yourself with too. You got to get yourself with people that are willing to run with you. You can't be around people. Look, if you're trying to cut carbs and drop a few pounds, you don't want to be around people that want to eat pizza or donuts all the time. I came to worship practice yesterday with the worship team, and TJ brought donuts for everybody.
Donuts?
And they look so good too. Yeah.
Where is it from?
I don't know. I didn't eat any though.
You can't be. See,
But you
definitely can't surround yourself.
Right, but it's the make sure you got the right people around you that's willing to run with you, that's in the same vein as you, that's speaking the same language as you, that's not gonna, that's gonna spur you on, and not discourage you or allow you to have. Let's talk about this for a second, or not hold you to a higher standard or to a standard that demands that you grow and that you start bearing fruit. In keeping with repentance, John the Baptist said, but start bearing some spiritual fruit in your life.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the thing. Would I have produced the same fruit if you kept chasing me? Right? I mean, one of my favorite things about you is, I felt that pull because I needed someone like you in my corner going into ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I needed someone that if I started whimpering, you'd be like, bro, like, I had where to stop. Right? I mean, you were that person to also build me up. But at the same time, you had me come after you. I mean, and that's the proverbial skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a reason why God's always there, but you've got to go after him.
It's good, man.
Right? You've got to go after him.
Good.
And it's because that holds us accountable.
That's right.
It held me accountable to, if I really wanted to grow, I knew I was able to reach out to you.
Yep.
And it'd be one thing if, like, you kept reaching out to me. It'd be easy for me to say, no, I don't have time. No, I don't have time. Now I'm reaching out to you. It's not like I could say, hey, you wanna get together? Oh, never mind, I don't have any time.
Right. That's a good point, man. Because I have a lot of, there's God has allowed a lot of people come across my path over the last 18 years of being in ministry, and there are people that have come in and they want to be mentored or discipled, or the language that we've been using around here is they want to become a spiritual son or a spiritual daughter, and or whatever and that's kind of the language that we've been growing accustomed to, because we decided, let's not build a church anymore. Let's just raise a family here. That just seemed to fit us. And plus it just looked more biblical. And I know Jesus said, "Upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell won't prevail." But it just has this overwhelmingly family feel to it, and it just works for our culture here. And so, but the point I was making is this: that they asked to be. Well, will you take the time and minister to me, or pour into me, or invest in me? To which I'll 100% of the time say, absolutely. But it's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to them how much do you really want this? Or are you just looking, for a relationship so you could tell people that you're close to me or whatever? It's like, well, it's not that I necessarily do it on purpose, but at some point, I'm gonna try to determine if you're really serious about it or not, if you're really committed, because I'm really only interested in taking the time to. And now, I mean, I'll spread the gospel. I'll teach the word of God and spread the word of God. But to really be intentional about pouring into people individually, I'm at this point, and this is where I'm at now. I'm not saying it won't change, but where I'm at right now, I'm really only interested in doing that to people that are 100% teachable, that are just, that are hungry for it, that really want it. If we're sitting having a conversation and you're yawning and looking at your watch or your phone, it's probably the last time you're going to see me for a while. But, but if you're taking notes and you're writing and we have Richie, who's in our media department here. I remember one time when he was on staff here. And he volunteers, but before he was, I think he had a paid position here. Probably wasn't a lot, so mostly looked like he was volunteering. But anyway, I remember he came into a meeting with me one time, and he didn't have a pad and a pencil or a pen. And I said, listen, let me teach you something. Anytime you go into a meeting with anybody, you always take something to write with and something to write on. I said, don't ever go into a meeting without anything, to jot notes down with. And so that's been probably over a year or so ago, and we had a meeting here not long ago, like last week I think it was. Of course I forgot that I said that to him, but he came in, he had his pad and his pen. He was like, I'm ready, and he reminded me of what I showed him. Yeah. are you really hungry for this? Do you really desire this? Is this, do you really, want to go after, the things of God and the kingdom of God? I mean, if you do, then, I'll certainly make time available to invest and to pour in. But, people that are just disinterested in it, or they want a relationship because they just want to, eat chicken wings and watch football games, it's like, I mean, that's cool from time to time, but right where I'm at right now, that's not my bag, Although I'll go and have an omelet and some scrapple with you I'll do that. But I know what we're going to be talking about. And I know that I've got and it's not just you learning from me. I get to learn a lot from you too. So it's a win-win, at least for me.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
I always look forward to them, man. Like I said, I don't even go to sleep. That's why I said it so early. I just pull an all-nighter. And once we're done breakfast, I go to bed.
You're so goofy. Stop it. Hey, wait. So if we're meeting here, does this mean no breakfast this month?
Oh, come on.
I was going to say,
Definitely
but
have a
you can't use this in replacement of.
I should have brought JoJo's to go. Oh my gosh, we could have had our.
I could have had. I was actually thinking about that scrapple this morning. I know it's not like really healthy,
It's a
but
brick. Oh my goodness, that thing is a brick.
I know. It's so good though. You always try to get something healthy though.
I try. I mean, they probably pour grease on the fruit. A little bit of glistening.
Instead of sprinkling sugar on it, it's grease.
Yeah, you think that's like natural fluid? It's not.
That's wild.
But what I was thinking though is like training.
Okay.
When we train, there's a lot of athletes that can realistically only come twice a week.
Okay.
And so the number one thing we say is you have to do it by yourself too.
That's a good point.
And that's the same thing with our relationship. We might meet once a month. It's super powerful. But if we meet once a month, I'm going to be impacted for a week.
Yeah.
And if I do it by myself, I'll be impacted for life. And plus, if we're only doing it once a month, how much fruit can we come back with the second time we meet?
Right. It's the whole Sunday morning paradigm. If you're only going once a week for 2 hours and that's it, I mean, that's not enough. I know it's not enough because I've been in that system for 18 years. I know what it's yielded. Some fruit, but not much, or more fruit or much fruit. But there's some fruit, but not the much fruit. And I know, I'm starting to see much fruit in you and myself. But it's right. It's the those times spent together are great. But I love what are you doing on your own?
Yeah.
But I think, Andrew, don't you think that goes back to the, if you're really serious about it, though?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really serious about wanting to develop spiritually, it's like the times that you and I get to spend together is enriching, and I may, kind of, provoke you in certain areas, and you may provoke me in certain areas, but if we're not doing it apart from that,
then who are we doing it for? Are we doing it to look good?
That's a good point.
Are we doing it because we're saying all these fancy words for me in my position, right? Or people that come up to you, are they doing it because they want to grow spiritually, or they want to do it because they want to show Pastor how good they are scripturally? That's good, man. Right? I mean, I like that. Intent is also the beast of it. I mean, I've been down that path, right? I've been down the path of, I'm going to be the one to save. Oh, you went to Jesus? You went to Jesus because of me. But now it's completely different to where I feel like God took the weight off our shoulders because he said, it's not up to you to change their heart. Right. You're there to be and the reason I asked you when you got to the point of where you felt like you ate more, you got hungrier. Mm-hmm. Right? Because your stories always draw me in, right? You always talk about the intensity in my eyes. That's how a lot of those athletes are going to draw near. That's it. And that's where we're at. We're in a place to where we just need to burn so hot that people they want to know. It's up to God to change it. It's not up to us. That's right. If we get to that point, we're going to turn people away because then we're going to get angry. We're going to get anxious. We're going to get triggered. We're going to get, any of those words. But that's good. That's the whole thing. Even when we meet in for breakfast, there's no, here's the agenda. A lot of times it's just small talk, but then just that energy just starts to build, and I just see it in your eyes when you start to get locked in, But that's the thing. It's like, are we living out what we're talking?
It's good, man.
You know.
So tell me, I know the whole pandemic thing's been happening, and that's kind of had some negative impacts on schools around here.
Yeah.
But you're still heavily involved in the lives of student athletes, and I don't think I've had a chance to ask you. I know you guys have been doing some camps and stuff. You've been meeting with students.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So let me ask you this: through the pandemic, what are the kids talking about? What's some of the young people talking about that you're dealing with? What's the is there like anything like one particular? Have you noticed a pattern or one particular storyline or narrative that keeps coming out on, like a consistent narrative, or is it just like kind of is it impacting them or how is it impacting them? Have they talked about that? I'm just curious.
You're even seeing introverts be tired of not being able to go to school. So
Wow.
there are, kids even that are close to me. As soon as they found out about online, they broke down. Because they just, sometimes, when you're a kid, you're like, I don't like to go to school. But now that it's stripped away, you realize, like, you need that social aspect.
That's good. Yeah.
But a lot of those kids, they're getting exposed because they don't know who they are. Because when you're an athlete and you are in sports 24/7, you're told where to go. You don't have to worry about what am I going to do today. You don't have to worry about how am I going to make an impact in my life, in somebody else's life. Because it was, hey, you need to go to this workout. You have this game. You have this practice. Okay, it's 10 o'clock at night. Just got done homework. It's time to go to bed. Now you've got 6 hours of free time. And you have to look at that person in the mirror. And I think a lot of them, so they flood it with video games. They flood it with going to sleep. They flood it with just trying to eat. They flood it with going into the wrong things. And
So they got a lot of downtime, and they don't necessarily know how to fill it, and they're filling it with things that are probably detrimental to their physical health as student athletes, but it's probably detrimental to their mental and emotional status as well. The emotional thing, though, emotional, mental, with the situation with the quarantine and everything, that's had a negative impact on worldwide. Across this country, all age groups I think are impacted by that. And I was just curious as to how it was impacting the young people that you're in direct contact with and ministering to. And so they've got more free time on their hands, and you're saying that it's maybe the temptation to not use it to be productive is there.
Yeah.
Wow.
But on the flip side, if we are proactive, they are very ripe to know who Jesus is.
Awesome, man.
So I've noticed that. Right? They want, because they're hungry, like you said. So they're hungry because they're not being satisfied. If something starts to fill that hunger, they're going to get hungrier.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to start to feel, especially with where they're at now, if somebody is investing time in them, because, let's be honest, even if it's not the teacher's fault, like, kids are still feeling like, that they got that school has turned their back on them, that society's kind of turned their back on them, because, if we're going to get down to brass tacks, really the kids are getting hurt the most. And everybody's so concerned about everything else. And so if they have somebody that's investing that time, they'll come. But they've got to see, like I was listening to a podcast, there's a spiritual leader guy that's named Craig Groeschel.
Oh yeah.
And he was interviewing someone that he's a professional in generations. Everybody can be a professional in something, I guess. But he was talking about that generational gap of high school. And he said that this group, if you show them the vision, they want it. But you've got to show them the vision. You've got to show how it's going to play a part in their life and how it's going to truly impact them. The other thing is they're hungry to serve. Now, it has to fit in their schedule.
Right.
But they're hungry to serve. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a time that we can be so ripe, but not focus on the numbers. focus on how deep we can go.
Yeah.
You
That's
know, because like you said, the very first thing that you said, second thing maybe, was you want to pour into me because I have the opportunity to pour into the masses in the schools.
I mean, you have how many students that potentially you could touch? Potentially you could
Yeah,
reach
potentially it was thousands,
thousands of
thousands.
them, right here in Harford County.
I was in 3 schools.
Oh, okay. Not just in Harford County.
In Harford County, it's what was it?
I don't know. You had,
Was
it was
yeah,
it was
I
a
had
lot.
The number. It was. I want to say in those. Schools,
How many
it was
schools?
Close. Harford County. What they've got about 9 or 10 high schools. And then you've
That's a
got
lot.
middle schools that are under. Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah, but if I can make an impact, I don't have to impact 10 high schools. Just the one guy that's going to the 10 high schools.
but then I learn off that because I only have to impact that one athlete that's in 3 club sports and
That's good, man.
a multi-sport athlete, right? I think sometimes we're so concerned about us making the mark, not God making the mark through other people.
Well, that's because we measure success with very inferior metrics.
Yeah.
Our metrics are how many, how big, how much. And that's an inferior metric when it comes to the kingdom. That's how the world works. That's not how the kingdom works. The kingdom, it's one heart at a time.
Remember, I struggled with that early because I'm so used to metrics.
Yes,
Remember that?
yeah, because of the metrics that you were
Yeah.
using to measure with.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you felt like you had to be on the go for, 70 hours a week. And I went, you're in ministry. It's more than 70 hours a week. You won't be able to calculate it just because of the mental and emotional real estate that you give to the ministry, to the kids that you're praying for and things that you might not be directly in front of them, but like your mind, because of the calling that's on your life, just never stops thinking ministerially.
Yeah.
You just always, and it's like, most people probably wouldn't understand that because they have a job that they can go to and they walk away from, and they're done with it that day until they go back the next day. And on the weekends they leave it and they don't have to go back to it until Monday, and they can just walk away from it and forget it. And you don't get to do that anymore. Yours is 24/7.
So then I got a question for you. So,
Fire away.
right? So that was a dad joke, kind of. But anyway, so
That was not dead. That was just a nerd joke. But go ahead.
So, what is one small actionable step that someone can do consistently that will help them find who they are in God?
I think when you get out of bed in the morning, you make sure, maybe even before you get out of bed, as soon as your eyes open up and you're having, you're aware of your thoughts, immediately make sure those thoughts are
Okay, that's good.
on the kingdom. Make sure as soon as your eyes open, before you think about reaching for your phone, your mind immediately. That's the seek first the kingdom. First thing in the morning when your eyeballs open up, and you're able to have those thoughts, make sure that your mind is turned towards Him, and let that set the. I know some people, they won't even get out of bed until they at least give thanks for being able to wake up. Thank you, God, for just waking me up this morning and allowing air to come into my lungs. What does that do? That immediately sets the pace for the rest of the day. The rest of the day, I've started off, the first thing is my mind is turned towards Him. And I just start there. And then build, well, so with your athletes, you have them build routines, right? I'm sure they're very routine-driven people.
Yeah.
Build a routine that centers around kingdom. I mean, that's got to be the center. It can't be, look, here's how most people live, Christianity in our country. It's, they see that I have a really good life, and then I'm going to add Jesus to it to enhance it and make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that's not biblical Christianity. Biblical Christianity is, he who loses his life for me will find it. That's miles apart from the idea of, I've got a pretty good life here, and I'm going to add the Jesus enhancer to it to make it a little bit better. And so that would be your people in the Bible that said, Jesus, I want to follow you, but I have to bury my father. And Jesus' response was, let the dead bury their own. Or the rich young ruler, I've kept all the commandments and I've done all this stuff from, since I was a young man. What else must I do? Or what could I do? Jesus said, sell everything you own, give it to the poor, and follow me. It's like, in other words, I was sharing with Tina the other day, I thought it was interesting that, tell me what you think about this. I thought this was interesting, that I'll give you 3 examples in the Bible where people came to Jesus and asking him about the kingdom of God. There was a man named Nicodemus who was a teacher of the law. He was a devout religious man. And he inquired about the kingdom, and Jesus said, unless you're born again. Now, this is a man who had gained a vast amount of knowledge concerning the word, and he knew all of the religious language that surrounded that. And the response to Jesus, if you want the kingdom, be born again. Almost a start all over. Be born again. The picture that comes to mind is infancy, where you don't know anything. Yeah. So he says it to this man. The next man has a father who had died. I want to follow you. And he said, let the dead bury their own. And then the rich young ruler. And it was the sell everything you own and follow me. And I thought it was interesting that they all 3 were giving. He gave them not 3 different paths into the kingdom, but none of them were the same. He didn't say to the rich young ruler, unless you're born again. And he didn't say to Nicodemus, and let the dead bury their own. It was like he put requirements on them for right where they were.
That's good.
It was different. It was like you could almost look at it. It was 3 different requirements to get into the kingdom, but it was entry into the kingdom. But on the surface, that's what it looks like. But really, what he was addressing is these are the things in your life that you hold in great value, and I'm unwilling to compete with the things that you hold higher than you would hold me. And so I'm a jealous God, and I'm not a God who's willing to compete with your family, and I'm not going to compete with your wealth and the things that you find important, and I'm not going to compete with all the knowledge that you have. And so he was challenging them in the places where, they had, that could have pulled them away from him. And I'm just not going to compete with that. And I just thought it was interesting that he challenged them all 3 differently, and he didn't tell them different ways to get in. It was just like, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to do. And so it comes back to that, he's going to challenge you. And so you'll have kids do this to you, because I was in youth ministry at a time, in another lifetime. But you'll have people come up to you, and I thought about this, and so people will come up to you and say, well, if I get saved, or if I come into the kingdom, I start this journey, am I going to have to give up smoking? Am I going to have to give up drinking? Am I going to have to give up sex with my boyfriend or my girlfriend? And it's like whatever they're saying, am I going to have to give up? And whatever that is, that's where Jesus is challenging them. It's like Jesus says, this is the battleground that you and I are going to fight on. And if you're going to come into the kingdom, that's the thing that I want. Because that's the first thing that came out of your mouth. That's what I want. And he becomes the center. That's the seeking first the kingdom. That's I'm willing to lay down my life to gain. And that's what that looks like. And you look in the culture that we're in, and that is not what you see. You see, I've got a great life, and I just want to add him to it. And he's saying, no, lose your life and let this become everything. There's my spiel on that.
I guess the thing that kept coming to mind as you were saying all that was, if you're not growing, it's because you're not listening. Right?
It's true.
It's the same thing like in your marriage. If you're not growing, it's because you're not listening to your wife. But I mean,
well, because listening is moving you towards deeper connection.
Yeah.
When you listen to people, it's causing you to go deep, and it's increasing connection. I do a lot of marriage. Well, I don't do a lot of marriage counseling now, but I've done a lot of marriage counseling over the years. And what I found out is that when people first start getting together, they start the courting and the dating process and all of that. They're doing everything intentionally to move them towards a place of connection and deeper connection. And then when I discuss it with them and talk with them to find out where the breakdown is, 100% of the time what I'd end up discovering is they stop doing the things that move them towards deeper connection, and they start doing things that actually have to do the opposite. It starts moving them towards disconnection. And so instead of being intentional about having connection, they actually become intentional about moving to disconnection. And by that, they stop listening to one another. Where before, they were just, you didn't do this, but me and Tina did this. Hey, all right, I got to go. You hang up. No, you hang up. I'll hang up. No, you hang up first. No, you hang up. Or you'll sit. My brother did this. I didn't do this, but my brother did. He'll listen, just listen to him breathe on the phone for like an hour or longer. But that's, it's silly. But if you think about it, these are the things that move us towards connection.
Yeah.
And so then this translates not just in your human relationships or your relationships with your spouse, but it's also kingdom. What are you doing to intentionally to move into deeper connection with Him? Or when you stop doing things intentionally to move in deeper connection with Him, then inadvertently you start creating things that actually move you towards disconnection. You start creating patterns and behaviors that actually move you towards disconnection instead of developing patterns and behaviors that move you to deeper connection. And so one of it is you stop listening, you stop talking. And that's creating a pattern or a habit that's moving you this way instead of this way.
Yeah. I mean, I love how you kept saying intentional, right? Because there's so many times to where, like, when we read the Bible, it has to be intentional, right? Because I was in a position where I would come here Sunday morning, saw a Bible verse up there. I read the Bible for the week.
Got my Bible reading in, man.
Got it in, right?
Saw it on Facebook as I was scrolling. A verse popped up. Got my Bible reading in for the day.
Turn in my seat, do a little selfie with the scripture.
I love it.
But you're right. I mean, everything has to be intentional. If you're intentional, then you're in a position to listen. If you're in a position to listen, then you're going to know your convictions.
Yeah.
And when I fully believe, like me and you have talked about this, but I fully believe that when you're on fire for God, the question isn't, well, do I have to get rid of this? Right? The question's not there because you're not even thinking about it anymore.
No.
Like, I'm not saying you'll never sin again, but now you know that there's a God that you can say, all right, I messed up. Lord, please forgive me for this. But you're not sitting there worried, am I going to check the box today?
Right.
Am I gonna, did I look good to everybody else? Because it's just, you're so intentional that you're so busy, you're not focused on the other stuff.
Yeah, it's the idea of you are just so enamored and so overwhelmed and so consumed by the relationship that you get to have with Him, the relationship that you get to have with the Word, and that the same Holy Spirit that raised Christ Jesus from the dead quickens your mortal body, and it's that same Spirit that when you're reading the Word or when you're intentional about spending time worshiping, and whether it's in a secret place or you're in your vehicle driving down the road and you're worshiping. Where I was worshiping at today? In a ditch. Literally, I was in a ditch with a weed eater. Seriously. Because I could weed eat and my brain doesn't have to be involved in the weed eating. So like my brain disconnects from, and it just frees up opportunities for God to come to speak, to talk to me or to hear from Him. And it kind of frees me up because I'm doing something that requires pretty much zero brain power, at least for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could just, and I have worship music playing and it's just like, that was my place of worship. And it was, nobody's going to come down there and interrupt me because you're in a ditch cutting out weeds. So I don't have to worry about the interruptions from there. Unless people are, start texting or something, then that might throw me off a little bit. But, but it's just being very intentional about that. And so when you just become, enamored and overwhelmed with and just that desire, it's, I'll tell you this, you will
if that desire and you just feel like you're overwhelmingly in love. Well, think about, okay, just do it like this. The things that you love to do, you automatically are going to make time for it. I mean, you really love it and it's life-giving for you, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And if it's curling weights in the gym, if it's running, which I have no idea why anybody would want to do either one of those things, but if that's what they're into. But if it's if it's reading a good book, you're going to make time for it. Yeah. You will go out of your way to make time. If it's watching movies, if it's scrolling on social media, if it's watching TikTok, I don't think they banned it yet, but anyway, you'll do everything you can to make time for that. Why? Because you're just, you find it life-giving, you find it whatever, and so you do it. And I think you get to a place where you become overwhelmed with Him, and just that desire's there. You will fight to actually make time. If you're not fighting to make time for Him and make that time, then that's when you have to do some deep introspection and find out, am I still doing things to move towards connection? Am I still, make sure you stay in that place where I'm still really in love with Him. I'm not saying that there won't come times where you just do it out of routine and habit. I'm just saying, don't make the majority of your seeking be out of routine and habit. You might have a day or two like that, but just make sure there's not a lot of those days.
Yeah.
So
So first thing, so I guess now I understand why when I drive by your place, there's patches. Because you don't.
Where are we? Because I'm not using my.
You don't focus, so that makes a lot of sense.
Well, I'm not saying I do a good job at it. I mean, listen. Yes, that's why my yard looks the way it does, because you could tell he doesn't use his brain when he weed eats. I'm not saying it doesn't take brain power to weed eat. I'm just saying I don't use it when I'm weed eating. I'm not saying you don't need it though.
But I mean, that point in your, like, 'cause we've talked about this, but that point in your life when you were playing a lot of golf, would you ever thought in a million years that someone would say, hey, in the future, you're really not going to care about this sport?
I wouldn't have thought, no. And I'll tell you another thing. I didn't have to, I didn't have to effort forth a lot of energy to make sure I made time for golf in my life. I mean, it was a priority to me, so I did it. I wanted to do it, and it was something I wanted, and I didn't have to do a whole lot of efforting to get to that place. Now, I haven't played golf in a year, but I don't really miss it. I don't, but it's just because maybe I'm just older now and I just don't feel like walking, and no, that's not it. I just, I don't know. I got other things. I think I reached this point in my life where I go, you know what, maybe dreams of the PGA are really out of reach at this point. And sometimes you just got to come to the realization, like, that is just a pipe dream.
They have a senior league, don't they?
Well, yeah, I guess I do. But
right.
No, that's not. You know what it is? It's just not as life-giving for me anymore. Honestly, and I'm not trying to be over spiritual or be. It's just not. Yeah. And so there was a time where it was, but not so much anymore.
How do you like to be in that secret place, huh?
I do, and I play Xbox now.
Oh, you're a gamer. You're a gamer, bro. I knew your thumbs looked real strong today.
Did you see that? Look at that.
It's almost like you got on the sticks before you got on. You got a quick pump in.
I did. Well, yeah. I try to do a little bit extra. Yes, I do. A little bit.
Oh my.
It's good, man. So how's the FCA going? How you? I know you last time you were on, I think you were just launching into full time. The last time I had you on a live stream.
I was right about to.
I don't think you crossed over. You were just getting ready to launch into it. And so now you've been doing it now for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
How's it going?
It is awesome. It is a roller coaster ride compared to what I've done before. And it's finally I've got some sort of routine down for the normal things. Mm-hmm. But once again, it was all about numbers in the beginning. But you start to see who wants it, and more kids want it.
Yeah.
But it's been an incredible experience. The same thing how you said, you've learned from me. I've learned from different kids.
Yeah.
Even if they're not Christians, I've learned from them, because even the ones that profess they're not, they love prayer, which
is
interesting, right?
Yeah.
And But the other thing is, in Cecil County, we had a power camp.
Okay.
And, one of the most impactful things that I saw, it ranged from 8 to 12-year-olds. And so, like, the last day of camp, I'm seeing high schoolers ask these kids if they want to accept Jesus in their life.
Really?
Right?
Oh, that's wild, man. Okay.
Yeah. And right then and there, that was God saying, like, it doesn't have to be you. I can use anybody. Right? And
That's
it was
good.
it was so impactful to see high schoolers be empowered to ask these kids. And some kids saying, yeah, I mean, did they say yeah because it's a cool high schooler asking them? But that's
Yeah.
besides the point. But it was still,
Seeds were planted and
Yeah.
watered in that time, though. You can't deny
Yeah.
that.
and like seeing things like that they don't only empower the high school, but they definitely empowered me.
That's awesome, man.
So it's been great. And now we're just like what you're doing with the church. We're going into it. We're converting back to a time of intimacy,
Love it.
discipleship. And these
Love it.
leaders. We had our first meeting today,
Okay.
and when I said, "Hey, I'm only focusing on you for the next 8 weeks," like they lit up because they're so used to always having to plan for other students, and a lot of their frustrations, like the students are only there for the donuts. They're just there because the parents dropped them off.
Right.
But now they have someone that's concentrating on them. And you could tell they're hungry, because I said, hey, do you guys want to, we're going to go through this plan. Do you want to go every other week? They're like, no, we want to go every week. Like, they're the ones that said, I want to go every week. You tell us the day and time. And that, once again, that impacted me. That taught me,
It's awesome, man.
So, but it's been an incredible experience.
So you meet with the student athletes, the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
That's who you meet when you meet with them
Yeah.
at least on a weekly basis.
Yep. And it's really the intent is how Jesus poured into his disciples.
I love it.
Yeah.
And it was and they were wanting to meet it weekly with you. And so
Yeah.
that just
That-
goes to
that
show you
was
that
their
there's
choice.
there's a hunger there.
Yeah. And there was one girl taking notes. She took notes for the group, sent it over text message to the
Love
ones
it,
that weren't
man.
there.
That's good stuff.
So I'm just like, wow.
So you're kind of helping lead them. You're intentional about leading them into a place, learning what it is to be the intimacy with the Father, the intimacy with the Lord.
Yeah.
You're intentional about leading them. That's awesome. And so we got a couple of people here that just here to take notes. They found out that we live stream from the church on Wednesdays, and so they'll come out and take notes. They were here on Sundays and on Mondays but you weren't here on Tuesday. She probably didn't know we was here on Tuesday.
VIP.
But there's people that they're like, whenever you're there meeting, I want to come.
Yeah.
And that's that hunger, man. I love that. Those are the people I look for.
And it's spread like wildfire.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that's how you ever think about this, that maybe the ones that God is looking for are the ones that are hungering and thirsting after Him.
Yeah. That's good right there.
Paul said that near the end of his life, he said that I think he was praying a prayer, and he talked about being poured out like a drink offering to the Lord, being poured out like a drink for the Lord. Do you ever think about God gets thirsty? And then you say, well, how can God be thirsty? He's God. So maybe he's just been being served inferior drinks the whole time, and he's looking for someone who'll give a drink that'll quench his thirst. And Paul said, poured out like a drink offering.
Wow. Yeah.
So maybe what we've been offering has not been thirst quenching. But I think God's moving us. I think I feel a divine shift happening. At least it's happening in this local body here. There's a divine shift happening that, it's moving people to a place that's going to, be able to, like Paul, just pour out a drink offering, just offer up something that'll just quench the thirst of our Heavenly Father and begin to maybe quench the thirst of the people there that are searching. And there's got to be more. And in the climate that we're in, man, like you mentioned earlier, with just the division that we see in our country, and some of the hatred that we see. We have law enforcement officers that attend our church here, and some of the stuff they describe to me. They've described to me the municipalities and cities and where they're at. They describe it as pure evil that they're witnessing, just pure evil. And so where sin abounds, grace abounds even more. And so we're just in this, and so I believe there's a divine shift that's coming, really. And the answer, I'll say it like this. Right now, we're in this climate where everybody thinks that the answer is going to come from the White House in D.C. And I'm saying no, it's going to come from God's house right here in Aberdeen. Or wherever God's house is for you, wherever church that you go to, it's going to come from the house of God, not from a political house, but from a spiritual house.
Yeah.
And so there's a divine shift that's coming, man. And I know we can't meet on Sundays like we used to, but for us, it's instead of being confined to a particular paradigm that we've inherited for, and trying to do for, 1700 years, we're like, the kingdom of God can't be confined to a traditional paradigm. You got to go beyond that.
Yeah. And honestly,
And you're doing that. I mean, because you're meeting with student athletes, not in church buildings, in fields, pavilions, right?
Pavilions, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. That's the kingdom, man.
Yeah. And honestly, I think if anybody that watched your video to talk about the transition, if that was a trigger, I would lean into it. If going away from traditional church is a trigger, that's kind of a good thing, because it means God's talking to you.
That's good.
Like, there's a reason this is triggering you.
It's good, man.
And it's the same thing if you're listening to someone that's talking about raising people from the dead, right? And that's a trigger. Lean into it.
Yeah, it's
right?
good.
So
I like that.
Like those miracles, they used to be triggers for me. I'm not exempt from that.
Right.
And I think it's because we're so used to thinking logically.
Okay.
And our God is such an illogical God,
The kingdom. It's because the logic that we use is primarily influenced by the world, and our mind is, the challenge is thinking more like kingdom or more spiritual. The kingdom is very spiritual. It's not that. I mean, right now it's a very spiritual kingdom, and so, and we're so used to thinking one particular way. And so that's where in Romans chapter 12, Paul said, do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. And so the idea there is I've got to change the way I think about. And so you've been brought up to think a particular way. And so if you can take the same brain that trained you to think those things and have it renewed and start the, changing some of the thought process, with the help of the Holy Spirit, you can retrain yourself and start thinking more kingdom minded.
Yeah, thinking that way is action oriented.
That's exactly right. It goes back to the verse of Scripture that you read out of 1 Peter.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. Well, so FCA, I see it on your head. I like it. It's a cool hat. Fellowship of Christian Athletes, if you guys don't know. Oh, and it's on your shirt too. And so, man, anytime I get to sit down and look you eyeball to eyeball and have a conversation with you is always good. Yeah. I enjoy it. You have definitely what you and I started to do together back in December, January. I think it was in January. That whole process there has really spurred me on to be more intentional about spending my time with other individuals that are like sons and daughters to me. And so that's helped my relationship with you, has helped, kind of provoke me into making sure we set aside time. And some of the spiritual growth that I've got to witness happen in your life, and just listening to how the things that you used to talk about when we first got together, how those aren't even those aren't even, it come up in the conversation anymore. That the stuff you're talking about, it's like your language has, God has given you a whole nother language that you're using, and you're not talking some of the business models and business things, and like that stuff is, I don't hear that out of you now. I just hear kingdom and family, and so I've literally got to watch. And Andrew, listen, man, the result of that may be why we feel so compelled to make the shift here instead of trying to force a 2-hour service on a live stream, to expand that and go deeper. And I see the power in just sitting at a greasy spoon restaurant. It's not a greasy spoon. It's actually a really good restaurant. But sitting there and we're trying to get sponsors here for our Wednesday night. Maybe JoJo's will kick us a couple. I'm just kidding. That's not true. but no, seriously though. But I think me seeing the power of that is kind of, been very beneficial and has helped me to be able to pull the trigger and make some decisions about moving us into smaller groups and spending more of that intimate times in smaller groups with people, being able to invest in them. And I think, spending time with you is helped to convince me that this is how you disciple people. This is how you do it. And so it's been really, really awesome, man. And not just watching you transform, I love it. It's been great.
Well, I would honestly say I feel the same way as far as because I didn't know what I was going to do with the schools, with them being closed, right? But just the love that I feel from you in an intimate setting, and how much I can see that you care.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's what people need to feel, And so I'll be honest, the shift of what we're doing is also stemming from that.
So there you go, man. God knew what he was doing when he joined us together back in January, right? We thought we were just getting together and having donuts.
Yeah. We're not.
There was so much more.
We didn't have donuts.
No, there was no donuts.
Don't say that.
No, the first place we met wasn't a donut.
Yeah, we didn't have donuts. Don't say that on camera.
No,
My
we didn't.
gosh.
No, we didn't have any.
It was.
But man, it's like, that's wild. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Look at the impact, man. So, what's your website? What's the website of, because I know you didn't come on here. You didn't come on here to do like a fundraiser. I know that. We were just talking. But you know what? It wouldn't hurt to let people know if they want to contribute to the ministry, that what you're doing, man. I don't think there's any harm in letting them know how they could do that. Could you take a minute and just tell them, or?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing, my website's harder to get to. Like,
Well, the FCA website, right?
Yeah, so you could do hartfordfca.org, and then there's an invest button at the top right, and
Easy enough. HartfordFCA.org.
yep, hartfordfca.org.
And there's an invest button. Click on it and look for you.
Yep,
And they can find you and Amanda and Luca.
yep.
Picture
right-
of all
right
three
in the
of you.
picture,
And
yep.
go and click and give a donation to Andrew.
Yep.
I love it, man.
That would be a blast. Thanks for bringing that up. That's
I
cool.
know you weren't.
appreciate
Yeah, I
that.
know that. I know we didn't talk about that, and I know that wasn't your purpose for wanting to come on. But I thought, you know what, you're here, so why not? Why not? Let's invite people to, see you like you're on the mission field out there, man. You're getting it done.
Yeah,
And so,
appreciate that.
obviously, these young people find value in it, and there's some hunger out there. And you have high school kids that you're training up that's actually talking to the smaller kids and asking them to accept Christ into their heart. Who wouldn't want to invest in that? I'm saying invest in that. I think it's awesome. My wife and I, I think we're monthly partners with you. We just invest in you, man, because we believe in you, and I love that.
Always appreciate that.
It's good stuff, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for inviting me on, right? Just
Absolutely.
A ragtag person like me, I appreciate that.
Stop it. Stop it.
It's always a
good
pleasure,
stuff.
though. But seriously, this doesn't count as our JoJo's.
No, this is not going to replace going to the diner and having an omelet with some scrapple.
Having a break of a scrapple. Oh my gosh.
You don't eat it though, man, but I'm telling you, it's good stuff.
I don't doubt it. It breaks your plate every
I
time.
like it.
Because shatters the plate.
Well, hopefully you heard something tonight that blessed you or encouraged you or provoked you. And I'm appreciative of Andrew Patterson coming on and being here with us. He represents the Fellowship of Christian Athletes here in Harford County, and he's connected in Cecil. I guess Fellowship of Christian Athletes is across the country, but he specializes right here in our backyard here at the church. He's right here in Harford County, but he's, wherever openings are at, he's going to be there. And so we're grateful that you made the effort to come down and be with us here tonight. And thanks to everybody that tuned in and watched. I pray that you would take this and kind of share it around and on your social media. And, just hope you guys have a good night and have a good rest of the week. And we
Close
will
out
be.
push-ups?
Push it.
Close
No,
out
we're not.
push-ups?
No, we're not closing out push-ups. You can close out push-ups. I'm going to close out by just saying, good to see everybody. Glad y'all tuned in, and we love you guys. And we'll be streaming from here again on Sunday morning at 10:30ish, 10:30. And so I don't think we'll be back on between now and then, but we'll see you back on here Sunday at 10:30. God bless you guys. Have an awesome night. Visit hartfordfca.org.
That's it.
hartfordfca.org. Go to the invest button and invest in this young man right here. God bless you guys. We love you. We'll see you soon.